Your grandfather kept the barn behind the house, dirt floor, door that stuck in summer, the smell of old gasoline and cut grass, and something metallic you could never name. On a shelf above the tractor sat a glass globe, heavy, round, milky white with faded lettering. And if that globe said the right name on it, it may have been worth $57,500. Before there were GPS screens and LED price signs, there was a long dark highway, and a low fuel needle, and a glowing orb in the distance. Gas pump globes were not decoration, they were navigation. A driver could spot a lit globe from half a mile away. That was the point. You saw the color, you recognized the brand, and you knew whether to stop or keep driving. Starting in the 19-teens and continuing through the late 1950s, gas pumps wore illuminated glass globes on top. A Shell clam, a Texaco star, a Sinclair dinosaur. More than 1,000 brands commissioned their own globes, each with unique artwork, hand-painted at first, then silk-screened and baked onto the reverse side of the glass so the colors would not fade. The earliest ones were called one-piece baked or one-piece etched globes, made of milk glass, painted by hand. Each one slightly different because each one was made by a person holding a brush, not a machine. Then the highways changed. The interstate system came. Stations got bigger, signs got taller, and the glowing glass ball on top of a pump started looking old-fashioned. By the 1960s, pumps got smaller. Globes disappeared. Most were thrown away, smashed, or left in barns exactly like your grandfather's. What was once 1,000 brands became a scattered handful of survivors. And the market did what markets always do when supply vanishes and a few people start paying attention. In the mid-1920s, a small Michigan gasoline company called Musgo operated for what historians believe was less than 6 months before it folded. While it lasted, it commissioned a globe. The design featured a Native American chieftain in full headdress, hand-painted onto milk glass in bold red and black. Every Musgo globe was supposed to have followed the company into history. In 2022, a Musgo, Michigan's mile-maker globe crossed the block at Barrett-Jackson in Scottsdale, Arizona. The hammer fell at $57,500. $57,500 for a glass globe that once advertised gasoline. And here's the thing about the Musgo. It is not the most valuable piece of Musgo advertising ever sold. That same year, a 48-inch double-sided porcelain Musgo sign, not a globe, sold at Richmond Auctions for $1.5 million. It had been found in an attic in Michigan. It had never been seen by the public. Same forgotten brand. Same thing you would have walked past at a garage sale. The Musgo is the record, but it is not a fluke. The market for rare gas pump globes has been producing 5-figure results for years, and the names behind those results are ones almost nobody outside the hobby has ever heard. In 2015, a Frontier gasoline globe crossed the block at Barrett-Jackson. The globe featured a rearing horse and the words "Roarin' to Go," the old Frontier brand slogan. It sold for $18,400. 3 years later, a Husky gasoline globe, a regional Canadian brand that operated across the American plains, sold at the same auction for $23,000. The year after that, a Husky high-power globe in pristine condition brought $17,250. None of these brands are household names. None of their globes appear in any history book you were assigned in school. They are known only to the people who have spent years learning to see what everyone else walks past. That is what the hobby is. It is not nostalgia. It is not decoration. It is the systematic study of what survived and what did not, and the willingness to pay for the difference. In the 1920s and 30s, Gilmore Oil Company owned the West Coast, the largest independent oil company west of the Rockies, with more than 3,000 gas stations from San Diego to Seattle. Gilmore sponsored auto races. Gilmore was California car culture before anyone used that phrase. Then, in 1940, Saucony Vacuum, the company that would become Mobil, bought a controlling stake in Gilmore. By 1942, the stations began converting. By 1945, the Gilmore name was gone, and as the stations converted, something deliberate happened. Gilmore advertising was systematically retired. Globes, signs, curb markers. The company did not want the old name surviving alongside the new one. Today, Gilmore advertising is among the most sought-after petroliana in the country. A complete Gilmore blue-green globe in good condition can bring tens of thousands of dollars at auction. The deliberate erasure of a company's own history is what made the survivors precious. That is not a strategy. That is an accident of corporate erasure that became a collector's obsession. Texaco produced a line of aviation gasoline in the 1920s and 30s, and the globes made for that product are among the rarest in petroliana collecting. Early one-piece Texaco aviation globes, fired as a single piece of glass, were made in small numbers, and almost none survived the transition away from pumped-up advertising. Collectors who have tracked them for decades describe finding even one in original condition as a generational event. The value of the rarest globes is almost never established at public auction. The serious transactions happen quietly, between people who have spent years understanding exactly what they hold. There is no headline. There is no hammer price in a database. There is just a phone call, a handshake, and a number that both parties agree never to repeat. That is the world these objects exist in. And the question is always the same. If you found one in your grandfather's barn, would you even know what you were looking at? There is a pattern inside every story about hidden value, and it is not luck, it is attention. Gas pump globes are not worth fortunes because they are made of precious materials. They are glass and paint. A Musgo globe and a generic globe from a defunct Ohio brand are made of essentially the same thing. What separates $50 from $57,000 is not the object. It is how many people are paying attention to that object and how many survived. Supply gets destroyed by mergers and time and barn cleanings, and people who see an old glass globe and throw it in a dumpster. Demand gets concentrated among a tiny group of people who have memorized every brand, every variation, every production run. The gap between what the world ignores and what a handful of obsessed people understand, that gap is where real value lives. And the gap only widens over time. The people who study a category for 20 or 30 years do not become less knowledgeable. They become more certain, and the objects they have spent their lives tracking do not become more common. They become rarer. Every barn cleaning narrows the supply. Every estate sale that goes the wrong way is one fewer example in existence. It is true for gas pump globes. It is true for coins, stamps, watches, license plates, comic books. And it is true for things nobody has even started collecting yet. Money does not hide. Attention does. So what is on that shelf in your grandfather's barn? Or in your own garage? Or at the estate sale you drove past last Saturday without stopping? Be honest with yourself. Would you have recognized a rare Gilmore globe if you found one? Would you have known the difference between a $50 globe and a $50,000 globe? Most people cannot. Most people will not. And that is the whole game. Subscribe to Money Fails. Real stories, real mistakes, real lessons. The globe you ignore today could be the auction headline tomorrow. See you in the next one.